and acknowledgement. This meeting is virtual, and because of that, we are not actually gathered in the same space. York's land acknowledgement might not represent the territory that you are currently on, and I would ask, if that is the case, that you each take the responsibility to acknowledge the traditional territory that you are on and its current treaty holders. As a member of the York University community, I recognize that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Tookaronto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis. It is now home to many Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. Today, we're going to be looking at probably one of the most important topics for students. And it's not simply because of coping with the pandemic or the coronavirus. It's one of the real keys for academic success for anyone, whether you're a mature student, you're an international student, you're a domestic student. So it encompasses everyone. And the part that I like the most in terms of the summary for the presentation that Shaila Khan is going to be making for us today is she makes reference to academic wellness, but she's covering the topic of health, wellness, and well-being. And just briefly about Shaila. Shaila is one of our distinguished health educators. She's a training specialist with the Student Consulting and Development Services here at York. And she leads this passionate group of peer student health educators. And she has a very interesting background. It's in dance. She holds a master's degree in dance from York University. And she's, and I didn't even know that this was a particular professional group, but a dance movement therapist. And she's affiliated with the National Center for Dance Therapy that's based in Montreal. And she leads mindful movement classes here for students at York University. So I'm going to turn things over to Shaila, and she can let us know what she means by academic wellness. Shaila.
Thanks so much for the very warm introduction, James, and for McLaughlin for hosting me. And for the folks that are joining, I hope that this is a worthy expenditure of your time and energy and effort, so I thank you for doing that. Because it's a pretty small group, I did prepare like a mentee at some points, but depending on like people's comfort levels, you're welcome to also unmute yourself or type in the chat. So there's lots of different features that we can try to communicate and connect with, because I do want it to be not only interactive, but I want it to be relevant to the students that are here today. So with that, we're gonna jump into things, but before we do, I would ask if you folks could kindly rename yourselves. So if you hover over your own little square, you'll see these 3 little blue dots. And if you click on the blue little dots, you might see an option, the third option, which is rename. And if folks could rename themselves with their pronouns, so my pronouns are she and her, just because I can't see folks, I don't want to assume people's identities. So it's just helpful for everyone to know what your preferences are, especially if you're participating. Okay, with that, we're going to get started. James or Vicky, can you give me host sharing screen share privileges so I can share my screen?
You should have it now, Shaila.
Thank you. Yep, it works now. Okay, let's try this. Oops, give me a second. Just gives me a second. Okay. So my name is Shaila. I'm part of the Health Education and Promotion team. We recently moved to Student Counseling and Development. We were part of SCLD for many, many years. And we're going to get into things. So today's presentation is going to cover, just want to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is COVID-19 and the impact on well-being. We're going to talk about top stressors and how that impacts academic success. We're going to review key campus resources that support academic wellness, as well as mental health supports as well, just so you get an idea of all of that. So first, I really would love to do a bit of a pulse check. So this is the first of a couple of mentees, and depending on what it is. So I'm going to ask folks, and you, James and Vicky, if it's relevant, and Lillian, if you want to participate. I think it's important to talk about wellness for all levels, not just for staff or not just for students. So if you folks can go to menti.com, minti.com, and the code is 96 71 27 and 4. I'm just going to set that up. So give me 1 second. Just go to menti.com and I'm just going to pull it up. Sometimes the wonderful thing about being an online presenter, you not only have to be really good at presenting, you also have to make sure you have all your technology in order. So give me 1 second as I pull that up. Let's do reset. Yep. Okay. And I'm going to go back to share screen. Okay. Hopefully you can see the mentee here. So hopefully you can see the mentee here. So the mentee code again is at the top. So 96, 71, 27, and 4. See if we can get a hand of folks in here first. So the first question is, what year did you just enter? Just to have a sense of who's in our space. Okay, we have a second year, graduating, third year and up. Awesome. That noise is just my cats doing their thing. Okay, all right. So I guess we don't have any first years, which is just good to know. So the question is, what feels the most challenging for you when it comes to remote learning? What has been the most challenging for you? Just about the circumstances that we are in. Staying focused, me too. Can definitely resonate with that. Yeah, I think those are definitely some things. If you have any more you want to add. So what we're seeing is the theme around self-motivation, staying focused, especially when you're in a physical environment that maybe doesn't call for focus, like especially if you're at home, there's millions of distractions, just being motivated and the fact that it's online, right? And that means that we're missing a few really key areas around our daily physical transition and our physical environment. So it's just really important to acknowledge how our learning environment has drastically changed. I would also want to do a pulse check on, and this is for everyone, so anyone can participate in this, is how would you rate your overall well-being and mental health? Right now, we just finished the first month of September. Do you think it's really great? It's really high? It's pretty good? It's so-so or not so great? Okay. Got some mediums. We're in a medium space. Okay. Wow, everyone is the three folks that are participating. Okay. That is so interesting because I know when I've done this type of question early September in class person, sometimes I go to a big group of lectures for sociology or kinesiology. It's definitely has more on the higher level of well-being at the beginning of a semester than later on. But we're noticing, and even for other groups we've done this during Frosh, it's definitely a little bit on the lower end. And I think part of it is because we're living in under a pandemic, right? So I think that that can have a huge impact on mental health and all the things that come with working online and doing school online. Okay, so we'll pause for now so you can keep your mentee like around or just minimize it or whatever, and we're gonna go back into the screen share portion of the presentation. I just wanted to get a sense of what folks were experiencing. So yeah, I think that what you're sharing with me is really a reality that's shared by so many individuals right now. So right now we have, what's it called again? This is a chart that I have here. And I asked you first to share with me your own mental health concerns starting university, because there really has been a shift in perception around our mental health and well-being during the pandemic. And this chart over here was pulled from Stats Canada, and it outlined Canadians that reported, like they gave themselves a ranking out of 100 of how they were doing in terms of their self-reported mental health. And so it seems like in 2018, the age group of 15 to 24 reported around 62 points. And now during COVID, the same age group is reporting around 41 points. So that's a really, really big difference and a big decline, given that it's only been 2 years, right? So if you take a moment to think about it, why do you think this might be impacting the age groups of 15 to 24 slightly more to the other age group, which is 25 to 34? What do you think has a significant difference, given that this survey was given to all Canadians? Do people have an idea? Just like chat, or you can even unmute yourself and speak up. It's a really small group. So just if anyone wants to share why they think that might be.
I'm gonna assume it's due to the fact that during this age group is kind of figuring out life. So you're seeing 15-year-olds, they just started high school and then they're navigating through high school. Then you also have that age also ranges from high schoolers going to university, and then as well university. Of course, you can be older and go to university, but I feel like a big chunk of people during that age group, they are figuring out those things too. And not to say everybody, but I'm going to assume for the most part, 25 to 34, you kind of have a job already. You kind of, for the most part, a lot of people within this age group have it a bit of their life figured out. So it is still stressful, but I feel like 15 to 24, you're also dealing with parts of puberty when you're like 15, and like just like overall growing. So I feel like you're dealing with a lot of stress from multiple like areas of life.
Yeah, that's a really, really good observation. The stats is like really big. Like you can look at the other age groups. I think they have 34 to 64. I just wanted to show the two similar ones, but if you look that up, you'll see even a really greater variance. Thank you so much, Kat. That is really, really insightful. Does anybody else think that there might be another reason, or are we all kind of thinking this could be true? Yeah, I see somebody in the chat. Yeah. I think this is great. If you're okay, I can read this comment. I would say that between 15 to 24, they put on more weight on socializing and friendships over other groups. Like there's a big emphasis on socialization, and that has a bigger impact on being able to talk to their friends. Yeah, totally all good things. And I talked to my students about this as well. And, you know, some of the things that we shared together was that this is such a big time for transition, as Kat mentioned. And there's also a huge loss and grief of those highly anticipated moments, such as prom, graduation, even being able to attend Frosh in real life, right? Or having the year by year, like you're your second year or your third year, maybe you were looking forward to that internship, or this was the year where you got to like do some kind of a lab thing, or you got to hang out with your friends. So all of those things, there's like a huge loss and gap around that. And the data just really helps us stress the importance of having these conversations about student mental health and well-being, especially given this is such an important age group to consider. So if folks have more insight, you're welcome to add to the chat, and I'm happy to read that out. So thanks to everyone for thinking about that. Okay, then the next thing is, what is academic wellness, right? It's a very broad term, and I think there's so many numerous areas that you can examine that contribute to academic wellness: the social, emotional, physical, spiritual, all the things that are on this beautiful little diagram here. And the reality of COVID is that it means that right now there might be also an increased amount of stress and external factors that we kind of looked at in the previous slide around how that might impact our academic wellness, right? So when we think of academic wellness, a definition that I pulled from, I think it was from UFT's health education website, I really like how they put it, was the ability to manage academic workloads and prepare for the future. It's about achieving wellness in this area, meaning setting challenges and healthy academic and career goals, and seeking resources to help you make the decisions to succeed. And I also would add that how we view our own academic success might be based on numerous factors: our personalities, our upbringing, our culture, our parental expectations, that's a huge one, societal expectations, where you live in the world. And this can all have a really big impact on our mindset that we adopt in defining our own academic wellness. And there are so many numerous factors. We can't just pick one or two things. And each individual has their own story, and that can be impacted differently. So I'm going to talk a little bit about academic stressors and what is really common for York students and students even in Canada. But before I do, I just really want to define what I mean by academic stress and what I mean by stress, because sometimes we have such different experiences of it that I wanted to take a moment to debunk that. So as folks know, I personally believe that stress is not a bad word. Stress is like biologically just like it's like a change in our bodily response to a new challenge, right? If there's a little amount of uncertainty, or when we've taken on too much, stress is like the signal to tell your body, hey, something is up, just so you know there's something up, right? And stress is really designed to protect us and alert us against outgoing threats. And some level of stress is actually needed for our growth and development. We need to have that. So a normal amount of stress helps us have increased attention. We want to embrace learning. It's like when you're starting university, and I know most of you are second year and up kind of students, the first year you're kind of having that like nervous, excited feeling. And that nervous and excitement is a level, like the excitement is just as much as the nervousness, and they both are experienced in the body the same way. Although we have different values around it, and one can be more joyous, but that kind of energy is happening the same way in our bodies. So we need some level of arousal for stress to make us feel like we're productive and contributing to our purpose, making meaning of what we're learning. So basically, if there's no stress, it means that there's no motivation, right? And this is where students might feel like they lack purpose. They aren't feeling connected to the material. There isn't anything motivating you to take actions. And this might be something that even when you are sharing in the mentee could be part of, thinking about like what kind of stimulus that you may be looking for in that physical environment that we're not getting in the online environment. So we know that new challenges allows for new growth. However, this is the big however, there's only so much threshold on how much we can sustain stress. So if we continue to compound stress and there isn't a release valve, we can really flip to the other side of stress, which is past anxiety and becomes overwhelm and burnout, right? So this can have a huge impact on our resiliency, our ability to cope, and our ability to support our academic well-being. I'm a very visual person, so I like to kind of show this little demo here I'm going to call it the window of tolerance. And this comes from sensory motor psychotherapy, if anyone is interested in that kind of model. But really, it's about how much can we sustain every single day, every single hour? How big is our window to be able to adapt, right? So some of us are granted a really big window and we can like stretch and we're able to deal with a lot of different things. Sometimes our window is small. It's like, this is the window. If you pass this point, you have gone too far, right? And that will depend on many factors, your genetics, your personality, internal factors, external factors, the day of the week. Like it can totally, your window of tolerance can shift sometimes. So it's important to ask yourself, where is my window of tolerance? What do I feel? So sometimes we need to be in this kind of like pulsating state, right? Where we're still stretching, but there's like this return, right? There's a return to some kind of a rest. If we continue to stretch, like if I keep going and I don't take a break, what's going to happen when I let go of one of my hands? What do you think might happen? It's going to snap like that. Because we're not invincible, right? So sometimes people think that the opposite of stress is like nothing, collapse. And that's actually not that helpful either. This is like in the diagram, this is the burnout. This is when we feel apathy, when we can't go on anymore. So we need to kind of be in this kind of like a healthy window where we can, we can stretch a little, we're a little bit stressed, but we come back. Right. And so just to give you like a visual idea of how stress works and how stress works in our body, and to think about your own capacity and capability around what you can tolerate and where you might need support, just to think about that. Any questions around that? Okay, gonna move on. So now I want to share with you some very important statistics that we just recently got around. This was taken just pre-COVID in 2019. Some of you might have even filled out the survey, which was the National College Health Assessment. And this survey has taken place at York, but across the country, and sometimes in the US, but we specifically just look at the Canadian statistics. And from this survey, we learned that we asked students within the last 12 months, have any of the following been traumatic or difficult to handle? And these are the top areas that folks reported: academics, career-related issues, sleep difficulties, which is ranked number 3, and it wasn't on the top factors in 2016, finances, and personal appearance, which is really, really interesting, thinking about the evolution around social media and media culture, even from 2016 to now, right? Like there's been a change there. So these were, I call the top 4, but these are the top 5 things that were really difficult to handle. If you want, there's something called an annotate tool. So if you see on the top of the Zoom, there might be like a little green button that says like view options, and you can pull up your annotate tool. And on the annotate tool, you might see like a button that says stamps or hearts or whatever you want. And I would like if folks could, check mark or mark any of those following categories that you still think are relevant, even in a COVID world. So you just have to like stamp whatever. Like you could say, yes, so much academics or whatever. So yeah, wherever you feel like it's still related, might be all of them, might be one of them. Yeah. Cool. This is the first time I'm using the annotate tool, so I'm really glad that it worked out. Like, yes, technology wins. Yeah, okay. It seems like academics for sure, finances, personal appearance, still super, super relevant. It seems like everyone checked at least one of them. So, that just tells us that even in this time, this data that was recently taken is still really, really relevant in terms of what we're experiencing. And not to say that there isn't more stressors, this is just like the top ones that the data show. Okay, so I'm going to continue on. Does anybody have any questions about this survey or anything like that? Okay, so again, we're just trying to share information around, yeah, if you do, just speak up because I can't really see people, but if you do at any point, just interrupt me or raise your hand or whatever. Just so you have a context of what we're talking about when I'm talking about academic wellness. So I do want to share with you some resources and tools to really address academic wellness. And that's really what I'm hoping that are the takeaways for you for this presentation, so that, you know, folks can feel proactive and getting the support that they need and understand what those are. So I'm going to be switching the focus a little bit on that. And also letting you know about other cool things that we're up to here at Health Ed. So I want to talk a little bit about some resources such as the Learning Commons and the libraries. I don't know if people know, but we have 9 libraries at York between Glendon and Kiel campus. 9. There's like mini libraries and other libraries that are connected to other libraries. So sometimes we only think of Scott, but it's actually quite a few. And so the libraries are part of something called the Learning Commons, which also includes the Career Center, as well as learning skill services. So even though the libraries may be physically closed for now, they're still continuing to offering services, especially like the Writing Center is still very much active, as well as the ESL Open Learning Center. And the great thing is you can actually get on-demand interactive chat with the York librarian, right? You can chat with them, text them, you can even Zoom with them. And they also have something called bookable virtual consultations for subject and data. So like if you are having a project and you need specific help with certain areas, you can actually meet with them and they can help guide you in how you're going to do your research. So, and they also do other workshops like how to do their search tool Omni, which is like that cool new search engine that they created. And that tool not only just works for York libraries, but it actually can helps resource information from 13 libraries across Ontario. So just wanted folks to know about that as an important tool. Okay, the other really great tool or a resource I want to recommend is Learning Skill Services. And if folks are like, I saw the motivation, the time management, being able to stay focused, I went to an academic stress workshop yesterday just because we were trying to figure out how we can support learning skills, and it was so excellent. So there really are creating these like spaces like daily and weekly for students to connect. So if that's something you want to get like really good at a specific skill, they're able to offer those types of things. They also offer core academic skills like note-taking, critical thinking, exam preps, those types of things as well. And they're really about helping you have the self-knowledge about learning about your own motivation, especially adapting from like working from home. So they've created a whole new website just around that. So the other important point about them is they have a virtual drop-in. So from 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 p.m., students can just go get a consultation with the peer learning skill services. And if they want to, and they can actually help you figure out if it's an assignment issue or if it's like a motivation issue, they can actually help sort some of that out. I will tell you personally, from my own personal experience as a master's student, that I just finished my degree like in February, but when I was stuck, and I really did get stuck, even though I had written a lot of different kinds of papers, I've done lots of different research projects, and I'd done a lot of essay writing. When it came to write an 80-page thesis, I struggled for months. I literally could not figure out how I could not do this, considering I had done all this other work. And so then my colleague was like, why don't you just take your own advice and go to Learning Skills Services? Because I felt like it was for people who didn't have their stuff figured out, and I had a bit of an ego around it. And it actually, I'm not even kidding. I tell Kathy Boyd Withers, she's like one of the mentors there. It was life-changing. She really helped me learn my own unique strategies for learning. She helped me figure out practical, step-by-step ways of how I'm going to map my dense project and just stay focused. I really struggle with that because it's such a self-isolating experience trying to write a paper for 6 months or 7 months by yourself and no one is around you. So I personally always want to tell people, go there. You don't have to wait until like it's too late. You can actually be really proactive. That's my testimonial. I will continue going on, but that was just one of my passions I wanted to share. So earlier I shared that career-related issues, and you also agreed, are one of the top 4 areas for academic stress. And another survey that was done for post-secondary students in May during COVID reported that 60% of post-secondary students across Canada felt very or extremely concerned about job prospects, right? And I know the Career Center is very connected to McLaughlin College, like physically, and they're really there to just help connect the dots. They can take students through all possibilities of career outcomes related to their current studies. And they even have specialized guides like My Career Exploration Guide. They have COVID-19 resources like how to find a job or how to do job searches through like during COVID-19. And they have an ongoing list of calendar of daily events, trainings and webinars, everything from job searches, resumes, and cover letters. They have a virtual career lounge so you can drop by anytime and ask either peers or professionals for any kind of career advice. And they're a great resource for finding on-campus jobs. So I mentioned earlier that I have, I don't think I told you how many, I have 8 peers who run workshops, and they were able to find that as a job because they went on the Career Center website. So check it out if you haven't. I also think that financial wellness is a really big factor as well. We know that learning to manage money is not an easy task, especially for students whose resources are often limited. So they've developed resources like videos, they have brochures to help students with financial planning in terms of how to fund your study. And they also have peer services, so you can actually talk to other students, and they can actually help you break down things like understanding your student account, your online statements, actually being able to figure out how to pay tuition, understanding interest fees and financial blocks and requesting refunds, like all those nitty-gritty things of like, how do people know how to do this? They can help you do that, as well as scholarships. I have a red big button right here that says fill out your SFP by October 15th. I say that because I don't think students realize that last year, I think York gave out almost $35 million in bursaries, awards, and scholarships. And if you fill out this SFP, which is on the sfs.yorku.ca website, you will automatically be connected to awards and scholarships just by filling it out, not even by doing any extra paperwork. There's for sure, they can even connect you to other awards that might require applications, but I know so many students who just are like, I filled it out and then I got some random money because I was in this program. And that has happened for me even as a grad student. So I just want folks to know that that's there. And the SFP is also the thing that qualifies you to get those on-campus job positions, like if you want to work part-time. So you need to have your SFP complete. Any questions so far? I know I've been a little rambling. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of break and we're going to go back to the mentee. So right now I talked a lot about wellness and related to the NACHA data and covered more holistic ways of framing academic wellness, really focusing on careers, finances, academics. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about your health directly. So it's time to pull up the mentee, and I'm going to try doing my stop share business again. I think I can figure this out this time. So if you can go to the code, if you already don't have it open, 96, 71, 27, and 4. I encourage the administrators to also, oh, I got a chat here. I don't know how to read my chats. Oh my goodness.
That was just me posting the code in the chat. Sorry,
Thank
Shaila.
you. Thank you. That's okay. I like to be interrupted because it makes me blab less. Let's see. Okay, 1 second. So this is an interesting question. I would love if folks could arrange what aspects of the university experience feels the most important to you to maybe the least. So just rank them. So you'll have like a little, it'll just ask you which one do you think is number one, number two, number three, or number four. So this is just like asking. So is it academic success? Is this year about making new friends and connections? Is it about your mental health and well-being? Is it being career or job ready? Managing your finances? What is feeling really important to you for this year? Okay, just gonna wait a few more moments if anybody else wants to participate. Oh, okay. Looks like so far academic success and being career and job ready are really tied. That's very interesting to me. Never mind. Academic success is winning. Okay. So this is an interesting thing to look at. So we have right now the ranking is academic success, being career job ready, mental health and well-being, making new friends and connections, and managing finances. I find that when we were doing this for like some of our Frosh Week presentations, it was so all over the place depending on what like if we went to Schulich versus we went to like another program, we had different results. So it's been really, really interesting. And I kind of asked this question, and it's a bit of a trick question. And the reason is because I really think students, you as like, you're a whole person, right? And so there isn't an aspect of you that is like more important than less important. I think it's kind of just a question of challenging how you think about your journey, right? So like your academic success, people pick that as their number one, but you need to make new friends and have that network and have that connection to not only be resilient for the 4 years, but to have those career opportunities afterwards, right? And you need to be job ready. That academic success is interdependent with that. And same with making new friends, right? Like if you had picked that as your number one, it's all connected with each other. And so I think the foundation, in my opinion, is mental health and well-being. And that's my opinion about it, because if we have mental health and well-being, it allows for those other pieces to be successful, right? You need to have that if you want to be academically successful. You need to have mental health and well-being so that you can have the resiliency, so you can pursue the career, so you feel that motivation and that thriving that is required, right? So that's my opinion, but I just wanted to get a sense of what's really important to you and to just remind you that you're a whole person, regardless of which one you ranked. Now, I also wanted to get a sense from folks, it's a very specific question, which is, how do you experience your mental health in connection to your physical health? Do you feel like they're strongly associated and you experience them as the same thing? Do you experience them as separately? Just like slide the slider of where you're like, how you experience that relationship. Okay. I think we might have one more. Okay, so we're like a 4.7 with that. Okay, that is very interesting. And again, this is really about your own experience, right? Like, what is it that you feel has been your experience with your mental and physical well-being? Okay, I'm going to pause one more time, just one more time, and we will resume the presentation. While I try to pull it up, okay. So, thanks. Okay. Almost there, okay. So I talked a little bit about all those types of questions because I really think that part of the framing that we have at Health is that when you invest in your well-being, you're going to actually be able to enjoy the learning, right? This is a time where you're trying to learn things and have new and interesting information and gain experiences and be exposed to fields of study that you didn't even know that existed. So when you feel like you've managed your health and you're able to take on you're able to take on more, you're able to experience and thrive and flourish and get better grades. So your like window of tolerance might go from here to here because it's really based on your wellness. That's my philosophy. You can totally disagree. I also wanted to share the connection between physical health, and I think most of you were like pretty aligned with that. But I think that it's really important to think about that even more so because we're kind of in this space where we're so static. Like the way that you experience me is through this little square, you know, different dimensions have been like removed, right? You don't have to, like you walk to the kitchen, but your like level of activity has really drastically changed, right? The way you do your chores or errands might have drastically changed. There's not a huge transition between going to your lecture, going to tutorial, and like working on a group project. It's all happening in this little square. And so our bodies are like constantly sitting. We're in a constantly sitting state. So I would like to propose that mental health is on a continuum. It's on a spectrum. Not everyone will experience mental illness, but everyone will struggle with mental health from time to time, from day to day. I would say from hour to hour, right? So our mental health is impacted by internal and external circumstances and really can fluctuate. And I think physical health is really part of that. So for example, if you are someone who's not getting enough sleep and you're spending all your time like sitting down and just staring at the screen for hours and hours and hours, what will eventually happen to you? So you're not sleeping, you're not even getting 4 hours of sleep. What's going to happen? What kind of symptoms might you get? Like maybe a headache, right? Maybe an eye strain. And even though that's not maybe like you've been diagnosed with any kind of physical illness per se, you're still going to feel like garbage, right? So even without a diagnosis, your day-to-day functioning is going to suffer. You're going to have poor physical health. And this will likely impact your mental health as well. If you're a sleep-deprived zombie person and you're not feeling really well, how are you going to feel motivated and excited about your course material or connecting with your friends and others? So we really want to start to think about a holistic idea of mental health that includes the body, right? And so especially now, more than ever. So this leads to the point around sleep, which is an aspect of physical health. And we know that it supports our resiliency and our daily life. And we also know that it was number 3 reported as the most difficult or traumatic to handle by York University students, right? Especially in 2019. So, for example, you can give me like a thumbs here. Let's try to do this participants thing. I don't know how to use it. Okay. You know, if you click on participant, there's like a yes, no, like green button and like a no button. So I'm going to say a statement and tell me what you folks think. So it's 1 a.m. and you still have another chapter to review for your test tomorrow. Is it better to review the final chapter or go to sleep? So if you go to sleep, you're going to get your 7 hours. And if you don't, you're going to get like 4. Let's just say. If you would go to sleep, you can hit the green button. If you would just push through and like cram it, you think that's better, that's going to work out, you can hit the no button. Okay. We got a mixed audience on that. I think it's a really tricky question because so we have 2 folks that said, yep, you would take the sleep, and one would be like, nope, we're gonna push through. And I think it's like a really honest thing to know about ourselves, right? Like how we function and what we feel might be helpful. I'll just tell you the science of it. The science is coming from Harvard that says that sleep plays such an important role in our ability to remember what we learn. Not only that, but it helps us functioning our best, especially around exam time. So when it comes to studying, sleep can actually help recall material from coursework, which helps prepare students for exams and as well as life. And so if you are struggling with sleep, and I definitely struggled with sleep in the first couple months of the pandemic, I could not figure it out. If you're struggling with sleep and you want to understand why sleep is important for improving your grades, or you just want to find ways to improve getting into sleep because you just can't sleep, for example, we have a few workshops around sleep hygiene and how you can develop your own sleep plan. And that's starting November 3rd. So you can Google that on Health Ed at YorkU and hopefully join us for some sleep conversations. That's my little promo for that. And I also want to highlight some of the excellent work that we're doing around physical and mental and emotional and social well-being at Health Ed. And so these are trainings that my students are actually running. So you may not see me so much, but they are the ones that are running it because they really believe in the peer-to-peer connection. There are other students like you who have these experiences, and they're trying to just make sure not only that they share information, but they create dialogue with other students. So it's a way for you to connect with others meaningfully. So we have one coming up actually on Monday around healthier coping, especially around alcohol and drug use in pandemic times. We're going to be doing a party safer one for Halloween, but given that COVID might increase another lockdown, we might change that to a party solo workshop. We're going to kind of see what the environment is around that, but that will talk about drugs, alcohol, and consent and intimacy. Then we have a couple of workshops on nutrition, food and mood, how food affects your mood, debunking fad diets and popular food trends, especially because of the social media hype machine. I talked a little bit about the Sleep 101, and we have a bunch of self-care series. So I'm going to be doing one on mindful movement for those who can't meditate, cultivating self-compassion for perfectionist tendencies, and passive and active leisure practices for exam season. So like, how do you take a break? When you finally take a break, you don't know what to do with yourself, so you go on your phone. Like, how do we break that cycle? So those are some of the things that our students are presenting that I hope you can attend. So far, any questions so far before I continue? Okay, just scanning. I've really just focused on upstream factors to take care of your well-being, right? So these are actions that you can take right now to get connected to those resources, to invest in yourself. However, sometimes we all need a bit of extra help, right? We all have mental health, and I want to normalize the fact that we might need support for that, especially when we're feeling so overwhelmed, stuck, or hopeless. Sometimes it means talking to someone. Sometimes it means getting strategies to get better boundaries with loved ones. Sometimes it means getting accommodations around our assignments or exams if we're already living with the mental illness or another documented disability. So I just wanted folks to know that this is available. So I want to highlight mental health supports such as SAS, which is Student Accessibility Services. They provide educational support. So anyone with a documented disability, academic accommodations, peer services for your exams, for your assignments, and that's for anyone with a mental health disability, learning disabilities, including attention disorders, LDs, physical and sensory and medical disabilities. And all you have to do is register with them online, and they'll be in touch with you if that's the kind of support you require this year. Take advantage. I also think that I wanted to highlight, so the department that I've recently joined is Student Counseling and Development, and we're connected to both the Glendon campus as well as the Graduate Student Wellness Services. So this is a department that can provide you same-day counseling services. So if you call them, call the number right away, you get to speak to somebody with a very short waiting time. And they can provide both long-term and short-term counseling. And right now they're doing everything confidentially, either on a secure telephone or a secure video platform. Their hours are posted online, but if you do, I think, drop in, I think it's from 9 to 4 every single day, Monday to Friday. The other thing people don't know about student counseling and development is that you can actually request specific counselors, because we understand people's experiences are so much shaped by their identity. So if there's a preference around the culture, gender, or race that you're looking to relate to someone with that kind of experience, you can actually ask for that. And most of the time they have a wide variety of counselors that they might be able to fit that criteria for you. There was also some rumor that before international or non-domestic students couldn't get support because of the laws around like counseling in Canada. I want to assure people that we now have a service called Keep Me Safe, which is 24/7 access to counselors for international and non-domestic students. And these are counselors that speak multiple languages from around the world. And if you know anyone or you need to refer that, you can connect to SCD and they will make sure that connection happens. So I just wanted folks to know that this is how SCD is working right now, especially during this time, that to take advantage. And in addition to counseling, like individual counseling, they actually run group formats. They both have formal processing, group therapy, as well as drop-in sessions that they're offering weekly. So they have an LGBTQ+ support group that talks about coming out, finding safer spaces on campus and in the city, managing stress, and connecting to broader community, as well as developing self-care strategies. And they also partner with TBL Gay, and they have one of their executives help run those sessions. They have a racialized support group, and this is a weekly drop-in that provides safe space for students who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. And this is to reflect their identities, experiences, and challenges, and to build community. They have a support group for survivors of sexual violence through the center. So that's another possibility as well. And they have weekly processing groups for those who prefer group format versus individual therapy. Okay. So I'm about to wrap up my presentation, but I would really love your feedback on the relevancy of this presentation, whether you liked it, and then after that, I'm gonna definitely take some questions. So if folks wouldn't mind, and I promise, like I can actually see like your results. So if you input things and you're worried that I'm gonna see it, it's going to hide them. So they're all hidden. So I just wanted you to know that. Yeah, you can see how much you agree with the following statements, right? Do you strongly disagree or you strongly agree? And just fill that out, and then I will take any questions or comments afterwards. Your feedback helps me improve our workshop, so definitely appreciate it. You're welcome. Okay. I'll wait a few more seconds. I know there was a couple of people participating. Okay, I'm gonna go for the next slide. And this is more about whether you liked the presentation, if you felt it was relevant, you like the length of it, would you recommend this workshop to a friend? Would you want to come to another workshop? You can take a few seconds for that. And while folks are filling it out, James, Andrew, Lillian, Vicky, this might be a great time to do some Q&A as well. So if anyone has any questions about any of the services or any things I shared today, you're so all welcome to either ask in the chat. I will also put up my contact information in case you want to directly contact me like afterwards. So I'm just going to give folks a few minutes to fill that out, and I'll flip over. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions at this time. Okay. All right, so I'll flip back to here. And how do I make this go away? Oh, okay. Oops. 1 second. Technical difficulties. Okay. If anyone needs to get in touch with me, you can either email me directly, shaila@yorku.ca. If you don't have my contact and you forget everything we just talked about, if you Google Health Ed or Health Ed York, you'll find our website, and there's a contact page with the form, and that form goes to me and my team. But right now I'm the only one checking it, so it'll probably just go to me. So yeah, if there's any other questions, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes. Otherwise, I'll pass it over to James. Oh, thanks for the lovely comment, Kat. Also, to anybody who sticked around for this presentation, we do a bit of another virtual mental health 101. I didn't put it on the upcoming events. And that presentation is about supporting and referring students who are in crisis. So if you are like in a student leadership position and you want to have conversations around mental health with other students, but you don't know how to necessarily do that, we have a virtual mental health 101. We have them throughout this whole, like we have them, I think we have a couple next week, we have a couple the week after. We're kind of just keeping this conversation going. So it's like, again, it's a peer-to-peer platform. This presentation was more focused on resources, but that one is like for student leaders who want to help other student leaders or other students in their classes who might be going through mental health, to help make that connection and referral, just in case people wanted that, because I know that's something that might be really important right now. Okay, I'm gonna press stop share, and James, I'll let you close off.
Shaila, thank you so much for your presentation. I think we all, it's not just students, but I think we all take for granted and forget some of the obvious things. And most importantly, taking care of ourselves, and how important it is to have the physical, mental well-being in order to be truly academically successful. So thank you very much for your presentation. It's really much appreciated. And it's especially important, I think, at the beginning of every term to have a presentation like this for our students, particularly our first-year students. So we've recorded the presentation, and it's going to be made available on our college website. So hopefully students will be able to see it on their own time. For the students that are here and the ones that would be listening afterwards, please remember when you attend our lunchtime talks, we do a random draw at the end of the talks, and you're eligible to win a book prize. And as I'm sure you all know by now, if you're McLaughlin College students, if you attend at least 6 of our talks, you are eligible to receive a certificate. And if you attend 10 or more of our talks, you'll get an honors certificate. And these certificates look really nice on your wall, your bedroom wall, or your residence wall, wherever you'd like, and also on your resume or CV when you're applying for jobs or you're applying for graduate or professional schools. I want to remind you of a number of upcoming lunchtime talks next week. We actually have 2 talks next week on the same day, on Wednesday, October the 7th. The very first one is going to be at 10 a.m., which is an unusual time for a lunchtime talk. It's more like a brunch time talk, but it's going to be the second virtual book launch, and this is really for our European colleagues primarily, but for all of those people that missed the first virtual book launch for Terrorism and Asylum, which was held last Friday on the 25th of September, where we had 2 of the contributors presenting that are included in that volume. We now have from Europe actually 5 of the contributors presenting, and it's going to be 3 p.m. London time and 4 p.m. continental European time for them. And the day and the times work much better for them than what we had scheduled for people in our time zone in North America. So please come out to that. The second one will be in the usual time slot of 12:30 to 1:30, and it's Balkis Jarrah, and she's with Human Rights Watch, and she's one of the senior counsels with the International Justice Program for Human Rights Watch, which is based in New York City. So she'll be making the presentation from New York City. She's actually a Canadian, and she's from the Toronto area, although she did do her law degree at McGill University and at Oxford, where she did her Master's of Law degree. And she's going to be talking about justice for Syria in the German courts. So anyone who has an interest on human rights issues, interest in international law, international justice, or the law in general, I highly recommend that you come out to that. Balkis is not only an expert in her field, but she's a wonderful speaker, so please come out to that. And a final reminder, we've talked a little bit about stress and how stress should be managed properly and balanced. And one of the things that we offer here at McLaughlin College, and the only thing that's offered of its kind at York University, is the McLaughlin College Community Choir. So, and oftentimes, of course, dance is accompanied with music. But if you love music and you love singing, then please join our McLaughlin College Community Choir. Our rehearsals are on Wednesdays at 4:30 p.m. for 1 hour. Everything is done, of course, virtually. And that also includes our performances. We have a wonderful choir director, Sebastian Marino, who's also a graduate of York University. And the wonderful thing about our community choir is you need no experience in choirs. There are no auditions. All that's required is your enthusiasm and your love of music. That's all we're looking for. And so the repertoire is all kinds of music. So it's not limited. It's popular music, it's traditional music, it's folk music. The whole spectrum in terms of music is performed by the choir. Last year, we actually had music where the different members of the choir from their particular countries, we had a number of international students that were in the choir, and we were singing in different languages. So please come out and join the choir. You'll find it a really wonderful experience. It's a great environment. And as I said, Sebastian Marino is a wonderful director of our choir, and he's I'd say he's gifted in terms of his musical talent and ability, but also as a choir director, he's wonderful. So you really enjoy those sessions. And so thank you very much for coming out again today. Thank you again, Shaila, for joining us and giving us that wonderful presentation. And we look forward to seeing everyone at our next session. Thank you all. Bye for now.